Welcome to Profit and Prosper, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to make some money while doing what they love. On this podcast, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about all things business and money. But I promise you, this is not your typical boring numbers talk. I'm your host, Sarah Young, a CPA and CFO with over a decade of experience in finance, business, and leadership. I'm going to share everything I've learned from helping my clients grow more profitable businesses and keep more of what they earn while growing my own successful business along the way. You'll feel empowered and confident that you too can grow your wealth, live a rich life, and have an impact. Stick with me and you might even start to think that finance is fun. Let's dive in. What's up, y'all? Welcome back. This is episode 59 of the Profit and Prosper podcast. And today we're going to talk about something that has been on my mind a lot lately, and that is how to maintain your sales pipeline for consistent cash flow. So you guys know I'm not a sales coach. I'm not a marketing expert. I'm happy to talk about anything that I have learned in my, 4+ years of running a business about sales and marketing, because obviously I've learned a lot to be where I am. But this is not my area of expertise, so I don't necessarily talk about it a ton, but I've just been having this conversation a lot lately with different people around, what are the things that they need to do to consistently bring those sales in the door. And let's talk about that from an overall sort of like business finance perspective today. And I'll give you some resources in this episode for the things that I have done to educate myself on marketing and on sales strategies, because it's something that I have spent a lot of time and have invested a lot of my own money into learning in the last several years. So when we think about consistent cash flow, there's really two elements of creating and maintaining consistent cash flow in your business at a high level. First and foremost, you have to have consistent sales coming in the door. And to have consistent sales coming in the door, you have to be generating leads on a consistent basis. That's number one. And then number two, to maintain that cash flow, you have to make sure that you are profitable. Your business is profitable on the back end. So once you make sales, what happens along the line, like what happens through your processes to make sure that that money lands in your pocket? So at a high level, right, you bring sales in, you deliver the offer, you manage your money, you're profitable, you have consistent cash flow. For a lot of people, your sales pipeline is probably something that you're still figuring out. And to be honest, it's something that I'm still figuring out. I'm still refining. I'm still adding to it. I don't think it's ever going to stop. It's just part of business, right? But whatever stage of business you're at, it's just crucial to be intentional about managing the pipeline, because I will tell you personally, there have definitely been times in my business where I have not managed my pipeline, meaning I've not done the activities that bring the leads in the door, and then I end up with no new sales for a while because I didn't do those things. So in this episode, I want to talk about how to figure out what your pipeline even is, and then how to figure out the numbers element of how do you feed the pipeline? Like, what are the activities that you need to do? You can boil these down into, what I would call leading metrics, meaning the activities that you need to do to produce sales that ultimately result in profits down the road. So tell me if this has ever been you. You do a bunch of social media posting, or you reach out to a lot of people, you go to networking events, whatever you do, you make a new sale, you get some new clients, and you're like, awesome, I got new clients. Then you have to go do the work, right? So you get really busy doing the work. And then because you're busy doing the work, you maybe let off the gas some in terms of your marketing and sales activities. And so when you finish up that round of work, you look up and you realize, oh crap, I don't have any new sales coming in. And so then you have to turn around and scramble again and go out and figure out, how do I get scrappy and make more sales? And then it just continues on and on and on in this cycle of the feast or famine mode, right? You're feasting when you bring a bunch of clients in, and then you go into famine mode whenever you're sitting there realizing you didn't maintain doing the lead generation activities that you needed to do. So tell me if that's ever been you. The way to get around that is to do what we're going to talk about in this episode and figure out what exactly is your pipeline, and then what are the sort of baseline activities that you need to be doing to bring those leads in on a consistent basis, so that when you finish up your client work that you currently have. When you free up and you can take on some new work, then you've got people sort of waiting in the wings, ready to go, and you maintain a more steady cash flow instead of having these huge, peaks and valleys. And I'm going to tell you, figuring out this whole pipeline I'm going to talk about, I don't think is something that you can outsource. So I've been having a lot of DM conversations on Instagram lately with people who are taking my mini course, which is about how do you hire a team, grow your business, turn your 6-figure cash flow into 7-figure wealth. That's sort of my tagline. If you've been around here for a while, you've probably heard me say that. So I have a free mini course, which, side note, you can go sign up at millionaireceo.co/mini course. It's totally free. So go check that out. Anyways, I've had these people, I've had a lot of people signing up for it, and I'm having DM conversations. And one of the things that we're talking about a lot in the DMs is you want to grow your business. What's going on? What's roadblocking you? What is stopping you from being able to get to a place where you want to hire a team and stuff like that. And I've had a lot of people, a surprising number of people telling me, I really want to be able to hire somebody to help me with social media or to help me with my website, because it just takes me so much time to keep posting constantly and to keep my website maintained. And I say, okay, great. Are you making sales from social media? And they say, well, no, not yet. Like, okay, well, are you making sales from your website? Well, no, not right now. I say, well, where are you making sales? And they inevitably tell me referrals, or maybe they have a Google My Business listing or something along those lines, right? Like, through these conversations, what I'm hearing is that I think people are saying like, well, I feel like I need to be posting consistently on social media, and that eventually it's going to result in sales. I just don't know when, but it's taking so much of my time away from doing everything else that I really want to be able to outsource this. And I'm going to tell you from experience, you are not going to be able to outsource the creation of your process around how to generate leads. You can educate yourself, certainly, but just hiring somebody else to come in and keep doing what you're doing is not going to magically suddenly one day result in sales if it's not already resulting in sales. You have to find the recipe for your own secret sauce. You're not going to be able to outsource that or give that to somebody else, right? I've talked about this in other episodes, but when we think about hiring, and this episode is not about hiring, I'm going on a tangent right now, but when we think about hiring, you're either going to be able to get a strategic person or more of a tactician. And when we think about, posting on social media, you're probably going to have somebody who's more of a tactician, meaning they're just executing on the strategy that you tell them to execute on. Versus hiring somebody to come up with that strategy, that is going to cost you a lot more money because that is a more high value thing. So understand, as we talk about this pipeline, yes, you can absolutely educate yourself. Yes, you can get coaches, but you're going to have to come up with your own secret sauce recipe through trial and error, right? And it's going to take time. I mean, it took me, I would say even, a year and a half ago, maybe, I remember talking to my husband and being like, I don't know. If I wanted to go bring in a new client tomorrow, I don't know how to do it. I don't think I could just magically, snap my fingers and bring somebody to me, even if I wanted to. And so what I had to do is sit down and figure out this exact process. How do I make sales? What is my pipeline? And how do I make that more consistent? So the point of telling you about the DM conversations and people telling me they want to hire, team members, they want to pay people money to post more on social media when social media is not currently making them sales. And so I want you to figure out first and foremost, if your problem is you want to make consistent cash flow, we need to figure out what is making you money right now. And that may not be where you're spending most of your time right now. Like the examples I was giving, people are spending a lot of time posting on social media when that's not resulting in any sales. So what if we switched your time around and your money, right? And focused on what are the things that are making you money and how can we do more of those? And then in smaller pockets of time, you can certainly keep, testing out different things to figure out, well, how can I make social media work so that eventually you can outsource it when you figure out the formula.
Are you ready to create a profitable business and use that cash flow as a fire starter for building your wealth? Since you're listening to my podcast, I'm guessing that you probably do, but maybe you aren't sure exactly how this would work for your business or if it's even possible for you. But listen, I am here to tell you that it is possible because I have worked with so many women business owners who have done exactly that. You can pay yourself a six-figure CEO salary and get yourself out of the feast or famine cycle where you're worrying about cash flow all the time. You can create a profitable business model that allows you to outsource and delegate so you can take time off from your business while still growing to the next level. And you can use that cash flow to start building a seven-figure portfolio of retirement, real estate, or whatever else you're interested in. If you're an established online or service-based business owner who'd like some hands-on CFO support to increase your profit margins, build your business to the next level, and grow your net worth using that extra cash flow, then the Millionaire CEO Incubator is exactly for you. The Millionaire CEO Incubator is my signature 6-month group coaching and done-with-you hybrid program to help you map out and implement a plan to turn six-figure cash flow into seven-figure wealth. We take on a handful of new clients each month by application. So if you're ready to change your money story, go to profitandprosper.co/apply or the link in the show notes and fill out the quick application. It should take no more than 2 minutes and we'll be in touch. Now let's get back to the episode.
So I said at the beginning of this episode that my pipeline has been at the top of my mind, and it's also been a conversation that I've been having a lot lately with clients about what is the sales gap that you need to make all of your goals happen. And so it's a process that we go through and that I go through in my own business where we have set targets for 2023 of, here's your budget for the year. Here is your sales goal for the year that's going to make all of your expenses happen. That's going to help you afford all your expenses and afford you paying yourself what you want to pay yourself and, growing your team the way that you want to grow. So we say, here's your sales target. The next thing we do after we figure out their sales target is we'll look at what are the sales that you already have coming in. Either, with our agency clients, we look at the contracts that they have and sort of lay those out in a spreadsheet and say, okay, here's what you have compared to what your sales target is. That means you have this gap to fill. And then that's your job as a CEO to go fill it. Or we have other clients who have service-based businesses, but they're like B2C. Maybe they have a brick and mortar location they perform services out of. When we do this forecasting, a lot of them, when they're the size where they're in our CFO services, they're making high 6-7 figures in revenue. They have a pretty consistent customer base already coming in. A lot of them may have memberships or things like that bring people in regularly. And so when we look at their sales gap, again, we're just looking at how many customers, how many appointments or whatever do you normally have set in a given month without even trying, just because you exist, because people already know you, people are already loyal. And then what's the sales gap there to get you up to your target? And then what are the activities that you need to go do for your sales and marketing and lead generation to be able to bring those in? Having consistent cash flow really boils down to, at a high level, bringing in income and then managing your expenses. We've worked with clients where we cut back on their expenses as much as we possibly can. We help them go through their budget and identify things that they don't need to spend on. So we have them spending in terms of their overhead, as lean of a team, as lean of overhead as they can possibly get without completely, blowing up their business, letting people go, changing their whole business model. But to make things work, they have to maintain their pipeline. And this is still going to be an issue even when your business gets bigger, because we've got, multi-7-figure clients who still have issues if they don't do the activities, if they and their team don't do the activities to bring in leads and convert those into paying customers, we run into cash flow issues. So that's why this is really important. I think for wherever you are, let's make sure that we can define what your pipeline is and then identify the activities you need to be doing to fill that pipeline. Let's figure out what your pipeline actually is. Where are your paying customers finding you? And what is the process that they go through to become paying customers? And let's focus on making sure you are maximizing that first. These are all things I have learned from being in business. Like I said, I've hired multiple different coaches, courses, things like that to learn about marketing. So when we think about your sales pipeline and your traditional marketing funnel, you've got the top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. And we need to be thinking about all pieces of that funnel. Going back to the example of the DM conversations where people were telling me, I want to hire somebody to just keep posting content on my social, a lot of people think that that is going to bring them new customers, but I would argue that's really, really not the case. So the top of your funnel serves to get you in front of new people, new eyeballs. people who have never heard of you before, just like bringing up your business and your brand, who you are, what you do, who you serve to new people. You want to have as many eyeballs as you can coming in at the top. Then we move to the middle. This is where you build the know, like, and trust factor, where people who are interested in you, who found you at the top of the funnel, they come through and they get engaged some way, somehow to, continue to be nurtured along. And ultimately, the point here is to build the know, like, and trust factor so that they feel comfortable moving on to the bottom of the funnel, which is where your sales engine lies. This is where you're converting people from just being in your audience to being paying customers. Step back and think about, in each of these phases, what is currently bringing you clients. And what I find helpful is just look at the last, 5 clients, 5 customers that came in brand new, off the street. Where did they come from? Maybe they didn't come off the street, but you know what I mean? Like brand new people, brand new clients, paying customers, especially focusing on the ones who you really like, who you like to work with, who maybe have bought your highest ticket packages, who are willing to spend the money. Like focus on where those are coming from. So from the top of the funnel, from where they first became introduced to you, here's some examples of things that might introduce people to you. First off, you've got referrals and networking. You might do guest speaking or podcast interviews on other people's podcasts where you get access to their audiences. You might have a website or a Google My Business page or something like that where people are searching for what you do and they find you that way via SEO, search engine optimization. This one is definitely a long game. Or you might be running ads. I would say ads is the most advanced strategy that you really have to have the whole pipeline working and you have to have your offers and processes nailed down before I would ever recommend going and spending a lot of money on ads. Notice in this section, I did not say Instagram is going to give you new eyeballs. Absolutely, there's people on Instagram who go viral and they get a ton of new audience growth in a short amount of time. And those people also tend to be the loudest people on social media, meaning they're the ones that you hear from the most and they talk about how they grew massively on Instagram. But I would say this is not going to happen to the majority of people. Can it happen? Absolutely. But this is not going to be, where a lot of us find success. I mean, I have less than 2,000 followers on Instagram currently, and we have $50,000 in revenue we've had that consistently for the last several months. And I intend to keep growing, but it's not like, I guess what I'm saying is like, you don't have to have a huge Instagram audience to have a successful business. Certainly it can help, but it's not a requirement. In this section, in the top of your funnel, I said referrals and networking. I grew my business in the beginning, especially. Most of my new clients came from referrals, and then I did some networking and outreach, just like getting to know people who could be potential referral partners. I don't do a ton of it anymore just because of my time right now is slim. I just don't have time to go to a ton of networking, although it is something that I want to put back on my radar for after tax season. I think a lot of people will like poo-poo on referrals, thinking like, this isn't, the way to grow a consistent business. And I would say, I hear what you're saying, but the fact that you're getting referrals means you're doing a good job. If my clients stop referring to me, I'm going to look at my processes and my client delivery and ask myself what happened. Why are they not happy enough to refer me to other people? So I think, using referrals is great. And, for me, it couldn't be the only way that I got in front of a new audience, because I think that a lot of people will complain about networking and referrals that it's just not as predictable. I can't predict when a new referral is going to come in. Absolutely, yes, you can ask for referrals. You can reach out and say, hey, we have 2 new spaces for CFO clients coming up in the next month. If you know anybody, if you have any other business owner friends who could really benefit from what we do, I would really appreciate a referral, right? Or I have clients who set up actual referral programs, and that's totally a thing, and you can absolutely ask for those. But for me, even when I'm asking for referrals, I find that it's not as predictable because you just can't guarantee that every time I ask for a referral, somebody's going to pop out of the woodworks, right? And so I think keeping that as part of the strategy, but then also thinking about, are there ways that you can get yourself out in front of new audiences? So that could be, I do quite a bit of guest workshops and podcast interviews just to get myself out in front of other people's audiences. That has worked really well for me. And then when we think about SEO, This one is definitely a long game, but it can work really well. And there's places that have SEO outside of just Google. A lot of the time we'll think SEO has to be on your main website and you have to show up on Google, and that's absolutely a thing that, you can capitalize on. But other places that have really great SEO include YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok. Like there's other places that have good search capacity where you might be able to leverage. However, what I want you to do immediately after this episode is look through, think about all of the different top of funnel activities and ask yourself, what's currently working for me right now? Because I want you to focus on that first before layering in new things. Okay. So we talked about top of funnel where you are bringing new people into your orbit and you're intentionally hooking them in so that they move down the funnel into the middle of the funnel where you are engaging them with, maybe it's a podcast that you have. Maybe you do post on social media. Maybe you have a YouTube channel or you are on, TikTok or Instagram and you're going live or something like that. Or one of my favorite strategies that I use that works really well is email. So I have a Monday email newsletter that goes out pretty much every week. And this is one of my key strategies where in all of my emails, I'm providing value that you don't get just from being on my Instagram or my podcast. And I'm asking people, hey, if this is you, if you are this type of business, if you are in this place, if you need help with this problem, let me know because we have this amazing service that will help you. I think a lot of clients, when I ask them well, how many sales calls are you having? And they'll be like, basically none. And then I'll say, well, how many sales calls are you asking people to book? And they say, well, none. I feel weird asking for the sale. And so I feel like when you're thinking about the middle of your funnel, you have to be thinking about how many people do I have to invite into my next step to make that next step happen? You need to ask them to the next step. And it also helps in this step if you can pre-qualify people by being very clear on what you do and who you serve and the level of service that you provide to pre-qualify them so that when they do move to the next step, they are even more likely to move on. Okay, so then we move into the bottom of the funnel. And like I said, the bottom of the funnel, and that is your sales engine. So that could be having sales calls with people. Maybe this is having a sales page that people buy a course from, or maybe you have a webinar, or maybe you sell people in your DMs. Whatever this engine is that converts people, that brings in interested leads and converts them into a sale, that's your sales engine. So that's the pipeline, right? Top of funnel to middle to bottom. So I want you to sit down and think through each of those areas and ask yourself, what are you currently doing? Where are your current paying clients coming from? And then what we'll talk about here in the next step is how do you map out the activities you need to do to bring those leads in consistently through your pipeline to maintain consistent cash flow. Quick side note that through the whole funnel is your branding and your messaging. So back in episode 44, I did an interview with Erin Breeden. She is a marketing strategist, and we talked about how important it is to be clear on your branding and your messaging throughout everything before you spend a ton of money doing other activities in marketing. And the reason for that is because your branding and messaging being clear and talking to your ideal client throughout the entire pipeline is going to make sure that not only are you bringing in the right leads for people who want what you provide and you're not wasting your time, but when they go to book a call with you or they go to buy from you, they're already highly qualified and they're going to be ideal clients of yours. So we need to make sure first that you're clear on your branding and your messaging. And the other caveat I want to make is as you're mapping out your pipeline, understand that some of these strategies are going to change, but a lot of them won't change frequently. So what I mean by that is if we think about top of funnel, right? Referrals and networking, this is a marketing strategy that has really not changed drastically ever, right? You go out, you meet people, you talk about what you do, hopefully they refer you some clients at a high level, okay? Versus other strategies. So SEO, for example, posting on different platforms, the strategies for that might change frequently. TikTok, the way that you post on Instagram, I feel like that's changing about every other week. So do yourself a favor, and as you're mapping out your pipeline, make sure that you're not going to be constantly having to change every piece of your pipeline because that is going to burn you out way faster. The second piece I want to talk about is how do you feed the pipeline? And you feed the pipeline by once you've figured out what your pipeline is, you have to do the activities to fill the pipeline. The process that we go through with all of our clients, whether you are a 7-figure CFO client or you're inside the Millionaire CEO Incubator, we go through this process. Step 1, we need to figure out what your sales goal is. And if you want to go back and listen, I have a podcast episode on that. I believe it's episode 15, where we talked about how to calculate your sales goal. So we have to figure out what your sales goal even is for how much money you need to be bringing in to cover all your cash outflows. From there, we're going to look at what do you currently have in the pipeline? What do you have under contract? What do you know that you have coming in? And the difference between the goal and your target is your sales gap. And once we figure out your sales gap, then we're going to go bottom up and say, okay, if I need to close 5 new clients in Q2 to meet my sales target, how many sales calls do you need? Or whatever your sales engine is, how many people have to go through that engine in order to close? And quick note, if you don't currently track your close rate or your conversion rate in your bottom of funnel, I highly encourage you to start. If you're doing sales calls, just keep track every month. How many calls do I have? How many close? So that you get a sense of what your close rate is, because it will help you do this math. Okay. And then also, I believe it was episode 14 where I talked about making the right investment in your business. I talked about along this funnel, like how to identify what you need to fix to be able to make more sales and to make more money. So go check that one out, because I talked about the difference in needing to invest in getting people in the top of your funnel versus needing to increase your conversion rate. But you got to track your conversion rate to know if it's a good rate or if you need to fix it. So how many people need to go through your sales engine in order to make the sales that you need to make? And then from there, we're going to ask, okay, moving up to the middle of funnel and top of funnel, what activities do you need to do in each of those buckets in order to bring you the leads who are going to go through your sales engine? Maybe you have an email list and you just need to spend more time emailing them and asking them, hey, book a call. Maybe you need to go out and get some more referrals, ask for referrals. Maybe you're already asking for referrals and doing networking, and you need to maybe do some guest speaking or some podcasts or whatever that is, right? Like, what are the activities that you need to do within each of those pipeline areas that bring you clients? And then I want you to write those down somewhere where you can track them over time and say, I need to reach out to this many people on LinkedIn. I need to send out an email a week or send out 2 emails a week or post in my stories about my program twice a week, right? Like, write down those activities and then track them over time and understand that, like, over time, as you do those activities consistently, you will increase your lead generation pipeline. And that is one of the 2 crucial pieces to maintaining consistent cash flow in your business. And if you're listening and you're like, I don't have time when I'm deep in the weeds of serving my clients, I don't have time to also do the marketing. That's a whole other thing we've got to figure out, of either we need to reprioritize your time or we need to start looking at hiring some support so that you don't have to spend as much time in the day-to-day stuff and you can spend more time in CEO activities, which I would count as, making sales and honing in on your strategy. That's all I've got for this episode. I hope that this was helpful. I think that this is one of the crucial pieces to having consistent cash flow in your business. Like I've said, it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, just as I'm in a really busy season of work with the tax deadline coming up. And I've really been just trying to focus on maintaining, doing the bare minimum things that I know, because I've mapped out my funnel and I track it, doing the things that I know bring clients in. And one of those things is this podcast. And that's why I keep recording episodes, even if I am super busy with client work, because I know it's really important to nurture my future ideal clients along. So if you're listening to this and you want some help mapping out your overall business financial strategy and profit strategy in your business to make more consistent cash flow, so you can grow your business, so you can hire a team, so you can pay yourself a higher salary, then I want you to reach out. Send me a DM on Instagram. Tell me, I need help in this area. How can you help me? If you have a service-based business and you're making high 6 to 7 figures, then I want you to go check out our CFO services at trustyoungco.com/CFO. We take on a very limited number of new CFO clients every month, and we've got some space starting in May. So if you go to my website and scroll down to the bottom, you can fill out an inquiry, and I would love to hear from you and to talk about how we can potentially help you and your business. If you have a smaller business and, If your business is making, I would say anywhere from 50K up to low six figures in revenue, then I want you to go and apply for the Millionaire CEO Incubator, because this is where we help you get from being a stressed out solopreneur. We help you figure out how to manage your money and learn the financial skills you need to grow your business and stay profitable. So to apply for that, go to millionaireceo.co/apply. That's all I got for this week. I hope this was helpful. Go forth and map out your pipeline, map out the activities you need to do to bring in consistent cash flow. I would love for you to send me a DM on Instagram if you do this activity, and if it's helpful, I would love to hear from you. And until then, I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Now, I want you to go take some action. What's one thing you can do this week to create more profit in your business? Send me a DM on Instagram at YoungCoCFO and share your action item with me. If you have a question or topic you'd like me to dive into, or if you're feeling empowered about taking charge of your finances, let's continue the conversation. Go to profitandprosper.co to submit a question or topic for me to talk about on the show. And because we all profit and prosper better with friends, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe wherever you listen, and share the episode. Make sure you tag me at YoungCoCFO on Instagram so I can give you some love, and I'll see you in the next episode.